Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Brainwave. And today we're going to be doing the Loki Season 2 trailer breakdown. Now, we did release the reaction to this trailer a while ago on the channel. Unfortunately, we have not gotten a chance to break it down, but since the series releases in October, I figured we have a chance to finally do it now. So let's break down this trailer. This is the first original Loki trailer as well. They also have D23 footage now on Marvel's YouTube channel. I believe it's Marvel Entertainment. I want to make sure I'm getting that right. Marvel Entertainment. But if you guys want to go check out the trailer for you guys yourselves, Marvel Entertainment, you can go check out that YouTube channel. And they also have the D23 footage, which we're going to be reacting to very, very soon. But for now, let's get straight into this breakdown. First things first, we start in the TVA, Time Variance Authority, if you guys don't know what it stands for. And we're in this old-fashioned mailroom. And if you guys don't know what type of mailroom this is, you can see the little capsules here. But these capsules would be filled with letters. And in like the 1900s, buildings would have these systems that would deliver these capsules to different parts of the building because it would take a really long time to walk up to the person, give them the letter, and then come back down. So they developed the system where you could shoot the letters up, back and forth. However, in the TVA, as you're going to see in a second, we see Moby and Loki walk in, obviously old fashioned furniture, which is kind of the TVA's thing. And you can see how this is the tubes that would shoot up the capsules to deliver the envelopes or the mail. And another reason the TVA is old fashioned was because in season one, a lot of the furniture on the TVA was old fashioned. So we're kind of repeating that theme here in Loki, which I love, right? And you can see on the sign here, this says repairs and advancements. You can't really get a clear look at it, but we do in later shots. But that's not the main takeaway right now because you can see there's a bunch of stuff in this room. And the real reason Mobius and Loki are here is to talk to Ob, which is a new character in the series. You can see him coming down, clocks up here about different time zones. See? And that happens to Loki. So Mobius is basically saying, we need to talk to you about a situation, and this happens to Loki. Now, this, my friends, we don't know too much about it yet, but this is what is called time slipping. And if you guys don't know, time slipping is a new feature or a new interaction that is being discovered, I guess, in the TVA or in this season of Loki. And what's happening is time slipping is I'm going to actually say this first. Time slipping is different from the glitching that Across the Spider-Verse had. Now, if you guys don't know, Across the Spider-Verse, if you guys watched it or anything, you'd know that when the spider people are in different dimensions, they glitch, right? Because they're in a different dimension and their body can't handle it, right? This happens to Miles, this happens to Gwen, this happens to Peter B. Parker, Spider-Man. It happens to a bunch of people within those two movies. So this is not that though. This is an entirely different thing. This is time slipping. Glitching is different. So that's not related to this because glitching happens when you're in another universe. Time slipping is different. Time slipping is when you have one timeline, a straight timeline like that, and you're basically jumping back and forth between the past, the present, and the future of that specific timeline. So that's what's happening to Loki here, and that's where you can see his body kind of unraveling, and you can see how he reacts with his hands there, right? Because he's anticipating it happening, so he'll move his hands, but since he's going back and forth between the past and the present, it kind of like glitches his movement like that. Now Mobius is talking. He says he doesn't. Ob knows how to fix. Ob knows about time slipping, but Ob says it shouldn't happen in the TVA. Now, another thing I do want to mention is that we kind of confirmed that in the beginning of, or not the beginning, that in season one of Loki, that the TVA isn't actually outside of time. The only thing that's outside of time is the void and the citadel of outside of time. But the TVA is not really outside of time. It's it's like not fully in time, but it's definitely not outside of time, meaning it's in a timeline, and that's why it's occurring. So, We don't know that for sure, I will say, but that's definitely something to keep an eye on. But after that, we cut to the Marvel Studios title card, and we see Loki time slipping between the time theater that we saw in Loki season one, where he saw his fate in the actual MCU timeline, and then he's time slips to this Piranha Power Sports with jet skis. So I'm assuming this is water sports. And in the first season, if you guys don't know, Mobius did say he always wanted to have a jet ski. Will we see Owen Wilson drive a jet ski? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. But anyway, we continue. So he's kind of glitching back and forth between the TVA and the a bunch of different places in the timeline, and he's saying he's being pulled through time, like from the past to the present. So you see what the time slipping is here. We don't know much about it, of course. It's going to come back up in the series, but you can actually see some posters here. I don't really know what this one says. It's kind of hard to see, but this one, I believe one of these here actually mentions about something. This is a different scene here. You can see time slipping. We get our first shots of Sylvie, and we believe, by the way, this is not the same variant that killed He Who Remains at the end of Loki season one. It could be. We don't know yet, though, because this Sylvie seems like she doesn't know what's going on. And you can see that when basically this unraveling effect happens to her. I don't think this is time slipping necessarily, because Loki's time slipping looks different, but this unraveling thing definitely has to do with some kind of timeline issue. We continue. Loki is seen pruning a wall with the three timekeepers on it and with the severed head of one of the timekeepers. And if you guys don't know, in Loki season one, the timekeepers were meant to be controlling the TVA, but they weren't because they were robots, and that's why that severed head is here. And the real person controlling the TVA was He Who Remains, which is a Kang variant. But since Sylvie killed He Who Remains, Kang's variants, or He Who Remains' other variants, aka Kang, can now jump in to the timelines. And that's why Loki is basically Loki is pruning this wall with Kang behind it here. Now we can see the elevator. Mobius uses his foot to press the button, and that's because of the fact that there's so many buttons and that it's probably the length of the elevator, which I do find interesting. Now, we finally get to the point where Loki and Mobius are going to be visiting a very old fashioned, or at least a very old uh, point in the TVA's timeline. Now, we don't know for sure if this is the TVA's timeline or a different timeline. We don't know yet, right? We don't even know if the TVA is a branch of a timeline. So take this with a grain of salt, but whatever this is an old fashioned place, and you're going to see that in just a few minutes. But you can actually see that Loki is coming out of the same time portals that we saw previously in the Loki season one, or in Loki season one, I should say. But we actually know how these time portals work now. If you guys remember, I mentioned those posters. I believe one of them actually mentions something about temporal radiation. And temporal radiation is the type of radiation that the TVA uses in order to create these portals, their bands, the time twisters, and things like that. So you can see they're walking out of it, and they arrive at this theme park. Now, some people have said it could be Coney Island. I don't know if that's sure. I don't know if that's true or not. I've been looking at it. I don't know if it is. I've never been to Coney Island personally, but I don't think it is Coney Island. So I'm going to say no on that. But it is some kind of amusement park, and it does say Midway Paradise. I did hear it was some kind of popular amusement park, though, that actually exists. So I don't know for sure yet, but it's probably not Coney Island. Now, we can see Mobius and Loki talking, and Loki's actually using some new powers. And if you guys don't know, this variant of Loki never really used his powers like this before. And basically, he shoots these two very, very powerful blasts. I'm going to go back to it. And that's kind of something that Sylvie did on him as well. So I kind of like how they're referencing how Sylvie kind of taught him stuff about his own magic. On top of that, we get our first shot of Brad Wolf, who is actually an actor in this series playing a character called Zaniac. And if you guys don't know who Zaniac is, he actually does exist in Marvel Comics, and he is a villain. He's actually interacted with Thor a couple of times, but basically, Zaniac was this serial killer, right? And he was basically obsessed with killing women. So he would go around trying to do that. And eventually, after some point in time, he actually gets corrupted by a mystical creature created by, let me specify this, Dormammu. Yay. So Dormammu created a creature that basically corrupted him, and he's basically a superpowered serial killer, basically Carnage, like similar to him. So he's actually interacted with Thor in the comics a couple of times. I believe a few other people as well. But yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see what happens with Brad Wolf here. But he gets shot. He's at the Ferris wheel by the looks of it. Now we see this green pie, Mobius taking it out of a bunch of cases in the TVA. And I don't know, I don't think we ever seen this place before, but it's kind of awkward that they just have a whole section for pies. And it's, of course, it's green pie to reference Loki. And look, see, here's the Zaniac poster here. This is actually a movie, even though he is a Marvel character. Keep that in mind. He is a Marvel character. It says it's a movie, but trust me, he does eventually become a Marvel character at some point. So we might see Zaniac, which is going to be really, really cool. And then, of course, we have Sylvie working at McDonald's. Bum 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 bum. Anyway, now we see once again Sylvie again here, basically dragging this guy away from some kind of TVA tech that he's using, maybe to prune a timeline. We don't know. But Sylvie does have this sword with her as well. So, I mean, we don't know if this is the same variant of Sylvie, but whatever is happening, she's taking it seriously. Brad Wolf again there. The timeline, which absolutely just doesn't even look like a timeline anymore, it's just scattered everywhere. We see Mobius in a spacesuit, and we actually see him going to this machine. And what this machine is, right? This is out in space or whatever it is, because I don't even know if it's space, but we can see Mobius outside of the TVA going to the timeline, like basically wrapper, basically. And what this does is that it will basically wrap the timelines into one strand, I think. And I think that's how that works, so that the TVA can control time and confine it, right? So he's going out to manage that machine because we know the timelines are just crazy right now. Loki is using some kind of machine there. The TVA is basically undestroyed. Sylvie is at the TVA. She really is going to play a huge part in this. And we can actually see here Sylvie at an old-fashioned workshop with what we presume to be Victor Timely on the ground there. Loki says, Sylvie says we're playing God, right? Which could be a reference of the timeline. Loki's like, we are gods. And then Loki does something crazy. Brad Wolf tries to get away, and Loki creates these two shadows using his magic, and they actually grab him and hold him down. And then directly after, we see Run Renslayer. This is not the same variant, I presume. Maybe it is. But Run Renslayer in this timeline is actually like, you know, helping Kang. So that's going to be interesting to see. Loki has this watch in his hand, which is presumed to show him when he actually time slips or not. So when he's in the red of that clock, he's not time slip. When he has a chance to time slip, but when he's not in the red portion of the clock, he can't time slip. So that's what we presume that is. We see B13 the Hunter B13 finally again at the hospital where the Ravonna Renslayer who worked at the TVA was previously, if you guys don't know from Loki season 1, her variant of a Hunter was actually A24, I believe. But then you see another guy here in the alleyway, Brad Wolf again, Ravonna again, and then The scene that we saw at the end of Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania with Victor Timely, actually with it looks like to be a prototype of the machine that we saw earlier in this trailer, with Mobius going to it and basically like the timeline wrapper. Victor Timely looks insane here. And then we see a gigantic Miss Minutes. This is scary. This would be scary. Miss Minutes in like the last episode of Loki was scary. This is even worse. Then we see Loki pointing at a mural of the Kang between, or the war between Kangs, which is interesting. We see the whole gang here, of course, once again. And then we see the TVA just basically self destruction. We don't know if this is an incursion because, like I said, the TVA could be a timeline in itself. So we don't know if this is an incursion or not. And don't worry, guys, if you guys don't know these terms, I'm going to have a whole Marvel multiversal logic video coming out soon. So that's going to explain all of that. But TVA is self destructing. Ravonna is there again. The TVA is shutting down. Now Loki and Sylvie have to fight all these guards. And then we get this sick scene with the title card. Then we get a few end scenes. Loki's clones. Him in these insane shots. And then we see Brad Wolf in a time cube, which is going to be a new feature. And that's it. Streaming October 6th, man. I cannot wait for this show. This show is probably going to be fantastic. I mean, season 1 was a hit. This is going to just bring it out of the park and finally get a lot more multiversal aspects into the MCU. So it's going to be very, very cool, very, very interesting. But for now, hope you guys have enjoyed this breakdown. Don't worry, more Ahsoka content is coming soon, more Five Nights at Freddy's content is coming soon, and a bunch of other stuff is on the way. So be patient, we'll get in there. But hope you guys have enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next video.